Good evening, everyone. Glad to have you this evening, this Tuesday, June 16th. And I am calling our meeting to order at 7:44 p.m. And we will start off with our invocation by Mr. Tucker, and followed by Pledge of Allegiance by Larry Spicer, Pastor Roy Tucker. I'm sorry. Thank you.
God bless you all. It's wonderful to be with you here this evening. Amen. Let us pray. Father, we just pray. We thank you as your word declares. We pray for all men, especially for those in positions of authority. We pray this way that we may lead quiet and peaceable lives. So, Heavenly Father, we acknowledge you for who you are. We acknowledge you for your wisdom. We acknowledge you for all power belongs to you. We acknowledge you for your mercy, your goodness, and your grace. Thank you for directing hearts tonight. Thank you that the hearts of men are directed as the water is directed in rivers, Father. You're directing the hearts of men. Thank you for your mighty hand upon tonight's council meeting, upon each council member, the mayor, and each position of authority. We thank you for peaceful resolves regarding difficult situations, for clarification regarding matters of concern, and for wisdom regarding each path and opportunity. Thank you for the community and each member represented, the various city departments and organizations, and that their interests are at the hand and the hearts of the leaders. We ask these things in the precious name of our Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Spicer, will
Yeah,
you lead
please
us in the
stand and
pledge?
join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Larry.
You're welcome.
Okay, our roll call tonight, I will note that our Mayor Pro Tem, Sergio Jimenez, is excused this evening, but you can go ahead and do the rest of the roll call.
All right, council members Belton,
Here.
Dr. Kelly,
Here.
Spicer,
Present.
and Mayor Shevlin.
Here. And we did have a closed session, and I'll ask our city attorney, Chelsea Strauss, if she could report out for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the City Council met in closed session regarding the one item on the posted closed session agenda. Councilmember Jimenez was absent, but all other council members were present, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you very much. And then we are moving then on to our presentations and proclamations. And first up, we have Mr. McManus, Kevin McManus from Public Relations and Communications Manager from Pasadena Humane, and he has our pet of the month. Oh, sweet puppy.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I brought with me just the sweetest senior that we have at the shelter right now. He's a beagle, and his name is Bagel. Easy to remember. Bagel, we think he's about 10 years old. He was found as a stray. And sadly, even though he has a microchip, we were never able to get in touch with his former family. So now he's available for adoption or foster. So if people are thinking, Bagel might be a great fit for me, come on in, meet with our team. Our adoption folks have a lot of great things to say about him, as is our foster team. He's a real hit at the shelter, as you can imagine. Gets to spend a lot of time with us and with our volunteers, and even went on a couple of field trips over the last couple of days, which is another great program. If you're interested and looking for something to do, take a dog out for a field trip. Excuse me. Bagel's also eligible for one of our favorite programs, which is Seniors for Seniors. So if he is adopted by a human, 60 years or above, his adoption fee is completely waived. And that's true of any dog or cat over 5 years old.
And do you have anything exciting happening over the summer, sir?
Sure. Well, we had a very successful first free adoption day just a couple weekends ago. We have another one coming up in the middle of July, I think right after I will be here next time. So we'll talk about a little bit more then. But we have a really cool opportunity for folks who are thinking about, well, a great way to help us out. As you all know, 4th of July is right around the corner, which is a great time to celebrate our country and everything that's great about it. But it's a terrible, terrible time for animal shelters because of fireworks. So if you are, if you have a pet, please make sure that you are thinking about your pet before you go to fireworks or experience fireworks. But if you want to help us out, we have a great opportunity to foster a dog for the holiday weekend. And we have a little bit extra support, but it's great for us because the dogs in shelters are already stressed out, so compounded with that fireworks. So if we can have them in someone's nice, quiet home for the weekend, we would love that. And that program hasn't officially been announced. It will be tomorrow or the day after, but people can sign up online if they're interested in doing that.
Great, thank you. And we always have to, we need a picture with the
Of course.
puppy, so we'll come down and get a picture. Bagel Beagles. He says, I want to stay. And then we have PR2 proclaiming Juneteenth National Freedom Day. And Dr. Kelly is going to read our proclamation, and then Mr. Spicer has some a special statement. We don't have anyone in particular to give the proclamation to, but it is an important proclamation for this date.
Absolutely. Thank you. Whereas on September 22nd, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, officially ending slavery, changing the status of more than 3.5 million enslaved African Americans in the Confederate State of America. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to inform enslaved African Americans of General Order Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection wherefore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired laborer. And whereas June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, Independence Day, Emancipation Day, Emancipation Celebration, and Freedom Day, is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. And whereas Juneteenth represents freedom as well as how the emancipation was tragically delayed for enslaved people in the deepest reaches of the Confederacy. This is a painful chapter in American history and also serves as an opportunity for us to recommit ourselves to combat all forms of modern-day slavery, human trafficking, and racial injustice, as well as to continue to fight for freedom. And whereas to support In support of the Black Lives Matter movement, we must stand in solidarity with those who are fighting for justice and human rights and acknowledge that the struggle for equality continues. And whereas on July the 7th, 2020, the Monrovia City Council adopted Resolution Number 2020-58, declaring June 19th of each year as Juneteenth National Freedom Day. And now, therefore, I, Becky Shevlin, Mayor of the City of Monrovia, California, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2026, Juneteenth National Freedom Day, and encourage the community to honor and reflect on the significant role that African Americans have played in the history of the United States and how they have enriched society through steadfast commitment to promoting unity and equality. Dated this 16th day of June 2026. And before Larry continues with his presentation, I do want to acknowledge that when it was first brought to the city, that my children, Raina, William, and Selah Kelly, were the ones that brought it to our city, and I want to just acknowledge that, and I want to thank them for that. It's also my son's birthday, June 19th, so as each year grew, he started wanting to do his birthday. He was a young guy, 21 years old, and they brought it to the city, and our city adopted that, and they had celebrations in the very beginning. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Yeah, Juneteenth represents a vital milestone in American story, the moment when the promise of freedom began to reach every corner of our country. However, true equality requires continuous effort. As a member of this council, Juneteenth is a yearly reminder of our responsibility to ensure that the city of Monrovia is a place where every resident can thrive. From equitable housing and economic development to fair representation, our work continues. Today, we celebrate the progress made, honor the African American trailblazers who helped shape our city, and pledge to keep working toward a more just and inclusive future for all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And although we don't have anyone to give it to, yes. We do love to take our pictures, so let's go down and we'll pose for a picture with our proclamation. And the proclamation, then, can we have that either posted at City Hall or the library somewhere appropriate? You can hold that. Our next certificate, as well, our presentation is proclaiming June 19th through the 25th as National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. And unfortunately, the vector control, San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control, they had two other council meetings to attend tonight, so they were spread too thin to also come here. But they do appreciate greatly our doing this proclamation, and we can send them the proclamation with our picture at the end to show them that we actually did present a proclamation at our council meeting. Whereas the American Mosquito Control Association is dedicated to preserving the public's health and well-being through the use of safe, environmentally sound mosquito control programs since 1935, and whereas the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health concluded San Gabriel Valley communities accounted for 41% of LA County's West Nile virus human cases in 2021, and whereas excess numbers of mosquitoes decrease standards of living, diminish enjoyment of the outdoors, public parks and playgrounds hinder outdoor work and reduce property values. And whereas the threat of Aedes mosquitoes in our community increases the risk of a local outbreak of dengue fever, Zika, yellow fever, and chikungunya. And whereas the City of Monrovia, in cooperation with the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District, has been involved in protecting public health from the mosquito-borne illnesses, and now therefore I, Becky Shevlin, Mayor of the City of Monrovia, California, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of June 20th through 26th, 2026 as National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. And just remember, it all starts with water. These little mosquitoes, they can reproduce in as little as a cap, a bottle cap full of water. So be very vigilant in your yards and make sure you don't have saucers and things out there that are collecting water. Make sure they're all dumped like the Tip, Toss, and Protect. And and wear your mosquito repellent and keep from being bitten. And I know at our concerts, we do have the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control. They do provide little wipes and that you can use. So go to the table at the concerts and you can ask for they don't keep them out on the table. You do have to ask for them. So they do have them when you're at the concerts, and so to protect you from being bitten. But could we, and unfortunately, I couldn't wear the suit tonight either, but we'll have to bring that back some other time. But let's take a picture so we can take that or send it along with the proclamation. What most people don't know is that the mosquito has been the deadliest animal creature on Earth. They've killed more people than any amount of wars or anything else, and so they are very deadly. And we need to work very hard to control them. We'll never get full control, but at any rate, and it's the females that bite. Unfortunately, that not the males, the females. Yeah. Okay. We're moving on. We don't have a student government representative report. That will resume in the fall. And then our order of business, I don't believe we have any change in our order of business this evening, other than, okay. Then on our consent calendar, there has been, those are items CC1 through, got lots of them, CC 26. And so this evening, though, we did have a protest filed by CCS Facility Services to CC 17. And is there anyone here representing that company? Not seeing anyone. We are going to pull that item and we will hear that, but we can approve the rest of the remaining portion of the consent calendar, which are all considered routine in nature and can be enacted by one motion. And so unless there's anything else that anyone needs to pull or comment on, do we have a motion?
Move to adopt.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt our calendar, our consent calendar, CC1 through CC 26, but we're pulling CC 17 separately. And so without any further discussion, so that's approved, but I want to ask Alex Tachiki if he could come up and give us a report then on CC 17, and we can handle that separately.
Well, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on CC 17. The item before you is a consultant services agreement with Merchants Building Maintenance for janitorial services at city facilities in an amount not to exceed $1,273,417.10 for the period ending June 30th, 2029, with the option to extend for 2 additional years. After 4 p.m. today, city staff received a letter from our current contractor, CCS, protesting the award of this contract to the apparent low bidder. CCS submitted the highest bid price of the 3 proposals that were invited to interview. CCS claims to have been confused by the RFP as to the level and timing of service required at the current community center and at 324 South Myrtle during the term of the contract, and asked that the city reject all proposals and start the process again. Staff believes that the RFP was not ambiguous, and we note that the low bidder and second low bidder were not confused. CCS had the opportunity to ask for clarification at any time, including during a mandatory bid walk and during the formal question period. They never raised this question with the city prior to today. We have discussed this letter with the city attorney's office and the city manager, and we continue to recommend that the contract be awarded to the apparent low bidder, which is Merchants Building Maintenance. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? And if there's no further discussion, do we have a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion, the appropriate action, move for approval.
Do we have a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second to approve CC 17 and to approve the consultant service agreement with Merchants Building Maintenance LLC for janitorial services at city facilities in the amount not to exceed $1,273,417.10 for the period ending June 30th, 2029. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmembers Belden,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem. Yes,
That's okay.
my mouth just goes in a certain order. Mayor Shevlin.
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks, Alex. That concludes our consent calendar then, and we are moving on then to our public input portion. And this is the time, thank you for coming to our meeting this evening, and this is your opportunity to address the city council on any item not on our agenda. And I do believe that we have several speaker cards that have been submitted, and our city clerk will call you up, and you will have 3 minutes to address the city council. And Alice will call you up.
All right, beginning with Debbie Huffey.
Debbie.
I'm Debbie Huffey. I own the residence at 240 East Palm in Monrovia. So I wanted to ask you or talk to you about the parking situation for the residents there. The 200 East block, which is right over there, has a huge parking issue for residents. And I had talked to somebody from the city several months ago. I didn't get anywhere, so I felt I needed to come to you to find out if you could help. About 30 years ago, we worked with the city and the police department and the school to get permit parking on the south side of that street, which we did. So we had permit parking signs up. The permit parking was for overnight, from 4 in the afternoon, overnight for the residents till 6 in the morning, and on the weekends. Now, that block is a very small block. It's a very narrow block, and you have the auditorium of the school on one side that the city rents out and the school rents out for lots of different activities. You have the temple down the street, which is a huge congregation on Sundays. And then you have sports activities and after-school activities that happen, and people love to park on that street. So anyway, we had the permit parking. That's a rental for me right now. My neighbor who has a walker has to park around the block because she can't park anymore because I called and the city told me we never had permit parking there, which is interesting to me because I fought for it for 2 years, but there's no record of it. So I called the police department, and instead of helping out, they went and took the permit signs down. So now we don't have any place to park for people. The argument I was given is that there's garages in the back, but what people fail to realize is in some of these houses, there's 3 or 4 units of rentals for people. And the city approved the garage next door to me to be an ADU. So now that's not a garage. Now that's another person living there. So we have tons of activities 7 days a week, and these people have no place to park. So I don't know why the person I talked to in the city said permit parking is not going to be allowed in Monrovia because it's a public street. Well, I know as well as anybody else does, permit parking is legal in the state of California. And you can have permit parking for congestion and for things like that. So I would like somebody to take a look at this and help the residents to get their parking permits back. Because initially it was free, and then the city started charging the residents $30 a year for permit parking. My neighbor has written the city 2 letters and called the police department. Nobody's responded to her. So I drove from Pomona to here tonight to try to get somebody to look at this issue. So I'm hoping that you guys will, and go check it out and try to find how we can get our permits back. Because this really is a unique situation on that little block where you have a temple, a school, and residents all sharing the same small block that's very narrow, that we need that parking back.
Thank you. And as you know, this is public comment, and we can't have an open dialogue on this. But this evening, is there someone that might be able to talk to her and get maybe some more information out in the lobby?
Yeah, I know it's a conversation I've had with other staff. So what I'll do is we'll collect information. I'll ask Alex if you could get Mrs. Huffy's contact information.
Ms.
That way we
Huffy.
can,
Ms. Huffy.
Ms. Huffy, if you could get Ms. Huffy's contact information, that we could provide a response at a later time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Next is David Pinto.
Hello, Mr. Pinto.
Thank you. My wife and I, Gail and I, have lived in Monrovia for over 21 years, and we love this city very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak. I'm going to read what I have written, and I am concerned about exposing our children to the drag queen story hour that will happen in Library Park this coming Saturday. I would like to know from our council members and the mayor whether you have made yourself familiar with the books that will be read to our children. And if you are familiar with those books, are you certain they are appropriate and conform to our community and cultural standards? I've done a lot of research on this. According to Wikipedia, some of the books that are commonly read during Drag Queen Story Hour include Two Mommies, When Aiden Became a Brother, I Am Jazz. I Am Jazz is based on the life of Jazz Jennings, a transgender advocate for trans children who had vaginoplasty to construct a functional vagina at the age of 17. That's what the book is written by her. When Aiden Became a Brother is a story detailing a young transgender boy's life as his family prepares for a new baby. I have more books there, but basically, children innately love clowns. So I'm concerned that the drag performers who are, in the name of good things like inclusivity and tolerance, are going to promote to our children an inappropriate agenda, that they'll slip that in. I have been to pride parades and been embarrassed for the children who witnessed men and women in these public parades flaunting giant props of penises, vulvas, and condoms. There doesn't seem to be this normal self-restraint that one would desire from this community. So what guarantee do we have that these celebrations of gay pride do not violate the standards of the majority of Monrovians? I ask these two questions. Have you familiarized yourself with these books? And can you guarantee that our children won't be exposed to over-sexualized pride celebrations? Knowing full well I will be accused of being one of those phobic things, which means my concerns will be reduced to being a fear. I will be homophobic or transphobic or some other name that reduces my concerns to just bigotry.
And Mr. Pinto, you have gone over the 3 minutes. Can you wrap up
So
your
I'll wrap it
comments?
up. So it makes me nervous to speak about my concerns. And because I'm nervous, I'm certain there are thousands of other Monrovia residents who share my concerns, but lack the nerve to withstand the slings and arrows that I will probably receive for asking you these two questions. Are you familiar with these books? Can you guarantee these celebrations won't be over-sexualized for our children's sake?
Thank you. And again, this is public comment. You're allowed to comment on anything not on our agenda, but we do not have an open dialogue or communication with the speakers. Alice?
Karen Suarez.
Good evening, council and staff. It's great to be here tonight. I really want to say that I appreciate all of you so very, very much for volunteering your time. And we have the greatest staff in the world. I'm here tonight to read a short thing, but what I would really love is for all of you to read this book, The Nature of Oaks, by Douglas Tallamy. And I'm going to quote a few things out of the book in this short statement. We need better tree protection, native tree protections in our back and side yards. I'm very happy with the city's progress regarding trees, but I want to make a few points on why I'd like to have more done. We as taxpayers protect some vintage homes. We have findings that control our homes, what they can look like. We appreciate character and history. We have a design review committee. Why not a landscape review committee? It is now legal to put ADUs in the backyard. Why not the front yard? But you know, my guess is that would not look appropriate or appealing. The city now protects trees in the front yard. Why? Is it just for looks? I hope our city leaders see trees as important beyond just looks. I'm going to make a few points about old native trees' irreplaceable role. I better put my glasses on. This is getting a strain here. Okay, that's why I brought them. In their leaves, in their lifetime of 3 million acorns, in their branches, their soil stabilization, carbon sequestration, many more organisms depend on old-growth native trees than meets the quick look. 2,300 different species, including 950 caterpillar species in America alone, depend on oaks. One tree functions as an entire ecosystem containing trillions of organisms. Since 1967, insect populations have declined 45%, and now there are 3 billion fewer birds in North America than just 50 years ago. Bird populations are declining so rapidly that 430 species are considered to be at risk of going extinct. It is the old-growth native trees that are the ancient cornerstone of our community ecosystems. Our large canopy live oak trees are more likely, 250 years old. They were here when America became a country. I am in favor of ADUs. Not every yard is conducive for one. When given building permits, our old native trees should be taken into consideration. There should be an in-depth process to obtaining a permit if an old-growth native tree removal is requested.
Can you wrap it up?
Okay. We are not going to save every tree. More needs to be done in place to protect these ancient, the that are trees that are protecting us. One oak tree can hold around 3,000 gallons of water and help stop fire progression. I really think that Monrovians want stronger tree protections, whether or not the circulating petition gets 3,000 signatures, gets on the ballot and passes. I hope the city will update tree protections and meet the needs for 2026 and for all generations. And please read The Nature of Oaks by Doug Tallamy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam Carmichael.
Good evening, Mr. Carmichael.
Hello.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Sam Carmichael, and I live at Colorado Commons in Old Town.
Imagine
You're at home having dinner with your family, or sleeping in your bedroom, and suddenly you hear footsteps on your rooftop. Not an animal, not maintenance workers, trespassers. This is a reoccurring reality for residents. Colorado Commons is a mixed-use development featuring a city-owned parking structure surrounded by private residential condos. The structures are directly adjacent and share walls at the rooftop level, rising 4 to 5 stories. Individuals have been gaining access to private residential rooftops via the city-owned parking structure, which serves as the primary access point. The activity occurs throughout the week and is not limited to specific events or times. Residents have heard people running across rooftops directly above their homes. When that happens, you do not know who is up there or what their intent may be. You only know someone is on your roof. We want to be clear. Our purpose tonight is not to criticize young people. Our concern is safety. The current configuration makes it remarkably easy to access elevated ledges and transition onto residential rooftops. Once there, individuals are exposed to serious fall hazards, mechanical equipment such as AC units, and other dangers, as these areas were never designed for public access. Residents have documented numerous incidents through photos, videos, and calls for service to the Monrovia Police Department. Enforcement alone has limitations, as individuals often leave before officers arrive. This is why we believe prevention is the solution. We respectfully ask the city to work collaboratively with the Colorado Commons HOA, Seraph Property Management, and MPD to evaluate measures such as anti-climb barriers, improved signage, camera coverage, and other design improvements to discourage unauthorized access before an accident occurs. This is not a hypothetical concern. The activity is ongoing, well documented, and involves city and private property. We should not wait until someone is injured, property is damaged, or residents' home is breached before taking preventative action. Let's protect our residents and young people and manage a high-risk safety issue before a tragedy occurs. As you've seen, I've shared documentation with overhead maps and photos to assist in your review. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Celine Lockerbie.
Celine,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Honorable Council, and distinguished staff. I am here tonight to speak against the revised parking enforcement around street sweeping. I am sure staff and MPD have had thoughtful discussions around this matter, and I appreciate that. I am simply here to share how these decisions impact residents like me. By far, the worst part about living in Hollywood was dealing with parking enforcement. In high-density neighborhood of renters, it pitted neighbor against neighbor, resident against business, and everyone against parking enforcement. In the end, I budgeted about $600 per year in parking fees and fines. I called it the poverty tax, because nobody owned a home, garage, or parking space, so there was no escaping it. Imagine my joy in moving to a town that extended grace around parking enforcement, especially in a multi-generational neighborhood with a high vehicle population. Of course, the streets must be swept, and we all must move our cars to allow that to happen. But once the sweeper has passed, the purpose of the restriction has been fulfilled. Enforcing the restriction for 4 hours, and in some neighborhoods for 8 hours, creates a burden for residents who don't have enough driveway or garage space for every vehicle. We can no longer park in front of our own homes, while cars from outside the neighborhood often take those spaces for the rest of the day or sometimes even an entire week. Yes, having to park a few blocks away is a first world problem. I pay first world taxes. And I don't think it's unreasonable to expect to park near my own home after the street has already been swept. In consideration of time, I won't list all of the alternatives I have considered, but one simple solution comes to mind. Have parking enforcement precede the street sweeper rather than follow it. If the objective is to ensure the streets can be swept, then enforcement should focus on achieving that objective, not on penalizing residents after the work has already been completed. I hope the city will explore alternatives that preserve enforcement while restoring the flexibility residents have long relied upon. A $60 ticket like the one my neighbor received yesterday after moving his car back long after the sweeper had passed is difficult to justify. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Celine.
Sherry Lochner.
Good evening, Sherry.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, my name is Sherry Lochner, and I'm a resident of Monrovia. I grew up here in Monrovia and Duarte. I am here this evening to continue to advocate for day laborers and other people who are immigrants targeted by ICE. At the last council meeting on the 15th of May, I reported there had been 68 deaths as a result of ICE actions, including people who have died while in ICE custody. As of today, there are now 69 people who have died as a result of ICE actions. The latest death is a 43-year-old man, Mamuka Artmeladaze, from Georgia, the country. He died while in ICE custody at the Wynn Correctional Center in Louisiana. He was detained by ICE in Alabama in February. He had no criminal record. His immigration case was still pending before an immigration judge when he was detained. He was found unresponsive in his cell. This is the 50th death in custody under this current administration. You may be aware that Senator Sasha Rene Perez has sponsored the Repair Act, SB 1103, and there was a press conference at the Monrovia Home Depot last Friday, June the 12th. One of the provisions of this act will require large home improvement retailers doing business in California to preserve video documentation of ICE raids on their properties. We demand transparency. Transparency is an absolute core underpinning of democracy. Transparency is what ensures that power remains visible and allows us to hold our elected officials accountable. It is a cornerstone of public trust. No government agency or business is above the law. Bureaucratic procedures must never be weaponized as a shield to conceal illegal, irresponsible, and inhumane practices. This evening, I reiterate the following requests of the Monrovia City Council. 1, continue to pursue obtaining the report investigating the circumstances resulting in the death of Carlos Roberto Montoya Valdez. 2, adopt an ordinance declaring Monrovia a sanctuary city. And 3, continue to work with us to establish a permanent memorial honoring Carlos Roberto Montoya. My colleagues and I have been attending these council meetings since last year in August 2025, after the death of Carlos Roberto. We will continue to be present at these council meetings to speak truth to power. When state-sanctioned violence and abuse of human rights are tolerated, we are all complicit. Immigration status should never strip someone of dignity, due process or their life. We will not be silent.
Thank you.
Martha Mack.
Good evening.
Hello, City Council and Mayor. I am going to read the names of the 69 people who have died in ICE custody and and during ICE raids. Jose Manuel Sanchez Castro, Pankaj Karan Singh Kataria, Ramesh Amechand, Henry Donaldo Ruiz Guyen, Sarawit Gezeheng Dehene, Maxim Cherniak, Juan Alexis Tineo Martinez, Brian Rayo Garzon, Non Ngoc Nguyen, Marie Ange Blaze, Abelardo Avellaneda Delgado, Jesus Molina Vella, Johnny Novieto, Isidro Perez, Tien Chuan Fan, Chao Feng Gay, Lorenzo Antonio Batres Vargas, Oscar Rascon Duarte, Santos Venegas Reyes, Ismael Ayala Uribe, Norlan Guzman Fuentes, Hua Ping She, Miguel Ángel García Hernández, Leo Cruz Silva, Hassan Ali Moed Saleh, Gabriel García Aviles, Kai Yin Wang, Francisco Gaspar Andres, Pete Sumalo Montejo, Suraj Fatehali Sachwani, Jean Willis Brutus, Fawad Saeed Abdul Qadir, Delvin Francisco Rodriguez, Nenko Stanev Ganchev, Luis Gustavo Núñez Caceres, Luis Beltrán Yanes Cruz, Paradila, Victor Manuel Diaz, Eber Sánchez Domínguez, Jairo García Hernández, Lord Sim, Julio Cesar Peña, Alberto Gutierrez Reyes, Pejman Cachenas Nach Fadbadi, Daffy Michel, Irvin Cruz Nape, Emmanuel Damas, Mohamed Nazir Patiawal, Royer Perez Jiménez, José Guadalupe Ramos Solano, Tuan Van Bui, Alejandro Cabrera Clemente, Aled Damian Carbonell Betancourt, Wael Tarabishi, Linda Davis, Jaime Alanis Garcia, Carlos Roberto Montoya Valdez, Josué Castro Rivera, Ruben Rey Martinez, Silverio Villegas González, Isaias Sánchez Barbosa, Keith Porter Jr., Geraldo Lunas Campos, Renee Nicole Macklin Good, Alex Jeffrey Preddy, Nurul Amin Shah Alam, Denny Adan Gonzalez, Orlin Josue Hernandez Reyes, Mamuka Ahmed Ladzi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adelie Yoder.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Natalie Yoder, and my husband and I have been proud residents of Monrovia for 22 years. By day, I'm the elementary music teacher at Barnhart School in Arcadia, and outside the classroom, I'm a certified life coach. And I'm here tonight because I've started something in our city that I believe matters, and I want you to know about it. It's called the Traveling Table. The idea is simple. We gather 30 people around one long, beautiful table for an evening of incredible food, real conversation, and genuine human connection. No phones, no agendas, no networking, just neighbors, many of them strangers when they arrive, slowing down long enough to actually see one another. And here's why I think this matters more than ever. We are living through what health experts are now calling an epidemic of loneliness. The American Psychological Association reports that 40% of U.S. adults now describe themselves as lonely. That's up from 35% in 2018. We have more ways to connect than any generation in history, and yet somehow we feel farther apart than ever. But here's the hopeful part. People are doing something about it. Interest in social and community clubs has surged to new heights, with internet searches for social clubs, community events, and run clubs reaching an all-time high. Even my husband is trying to find a knitting group that believes he can knit and will let him in. Book club listings have risen, running club memberships have grown, and people everywhere are logging off their screens and seeking real connection in the physical world. People are craving exactly what Monrovia does so well, community. The first traveling table here in Monrovia is sold out except for one ticket, just one. People I have never met have bought a seat at a dinner with strangers simply because they were hungry for connections. That tells me everything I need to know about what our community wants and needs right now. My hope is to keep these dinners going, to make the traveling table a regular part of life here in Monrovia, and to keep building the kind of community where neighbors actually know one another. I'm not here tonight to ask for anything. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know there's something good happening in our city. And if there's ever a way to partner with the city to bring more connection to more people, my door is always open. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all you do for our city.
Thank you.
No more speaker cards.
There are no more speaker cards, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to approach and provide public input at this time on matters not on our agenda? Not seeing any, then we will close that portion of our meeting and we will move on to our public hearings. We have quite a few of them, 6 of them to be exact this evening. And I will be recusing myself on PH3, which is tentative map number 85113. It's being brought forth by the Bowden Development Inc., and I have a conflict of interest regarding that item. But we will start then this evening with our public hearing number 1, Historic Landmark, HL 172 and Mills Act Contract MA-160 for property located at 115 May Avenue by property owners Francisco and Rebecca Garcia. And it's Resolution 2026-29. So, yes, and Ms., it's Jennifer, is it Jennifer Driver? I'm sorry, I don't recognize you right off the bat, but thank you very much. And so please present.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As stated, the item before you this evening is a request to designate the property at 115, sorry, it jumped ahead somehow, to designate the property at 115 May Avenue as historic landmark number 172 and to approve a Mills Act contract. The applicants are Reverend Dr. Francisco and Rebecca Garcia. The property is located at 115 May Avenue on the west side of May Avenue, north of Foothill Boulevard. The property is developed with a one-story craftsman bungalow that was built in 1912 by the Tiffel brothers. Tonight's request includes 2 related actions. The first is a landmark designation, which formally recognizes the property's historic and architectural significance. The second is approval of a Mills Act contract, which provides a preservation tax incentive in exchange for the owner's commitment to long-term repair, restoration, and maintenance of the property. The city's historic context statement provides the framework for evaluating historic resources in Monrovia. For craftsman bungalows, the period of significance is identified as 1905 to 1930, and since the home was built in 1912, it falls squarely within this period. The historic context statement also identifies the character-defining features associated with craftsman bungalows. These are the physical features that allow a property to continue conveying its architectural style and historic period. At 115 May Avenue, those features include the home's horizontal one-story bungalow form, low-pitched side gable roof with clipped ends, tapered piers with stucco and half-timbered supports, a broad veranda with deep eaves, exposed beams, and rafter tails, and vertically coursed wood shingles that wrap the exterior. The property has also been largely preserved with little to no exterior alteration. As a result, it retains the physical characteristics and integrity necessary to convey its craftsman bungalow design. The property is also significant because of its association with the Tiffel brothers. The city's historic context statement identifies the Tiffel brothers as master architects. They were prominent Monrovia builders and developers and constructed at least 54 structures in the city between 1911 and 1915. They were especially known for craftsman bungalows, and the historic context statement provides requirements for evaluating properties associated with their work. 115 May meets those requirements because it is an intact Tiffel-built craftsman bungalow that retains the features necessary to convey that association. It is also part of a small group of Tiffel-built homes on May Avenue. Several of those homes, including 119, 120, and 124 May Avenue, have already been designated as historic landmarks. Designating 115 May Avenue would recognize another intact example from this group and help preserve the historic character of the street. As part of this application, the applicants are requesting a Mills Act contract, which is intended to support the preservation of historic properties by providing a property tax incentive in exchange for contractual commitment to complete preservation, restoration, and maintenance work over time. For this property, the applicants have proposed a 10-year improvement plan that includes upgrading the electrical system, repairing the front porch, repairing the roof and other structural elements, improving the back entry, stairs, and basement access, and restoring windows, glass, and screens. These improvements are directly tied to the long-term preservation of the home and will help protect the character-defining features that support the landmark designation. In conclusion, 115 May Avenue is eligible for designation as a local historic landmark because it is an intact 1912 craftsman bungalow that retains important character-defining features from Monrovia's period of significance for the craftsman style and is associated with the Tiffel brothers, who are identified in the city's context statement as master architects. The Historic Preservation Commission reviewed the application and recommended that the City Council designate 115 May Avenue as historic landmark number 172 and approve a Mills Act contract. Staff also recommends approval. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
And thank you, and I do apologize for not recognizing you immediately. Great report, and it's good to have you come and present before us. Any questions of Jennifer?
No.
Okay, then
Great
this
job.
is a public hearing. This is a public hearing, so I will open it up. Are the applicants here this evening, the Garcias? Is there anything that you would like to say this evening in support of your application? If you do, please come to the podium. You don't have to, but I'm giving you this opportunity.
Mayor Shevlin and City Council, thank you so much for this time. And thank you, Jennifer Driver, for your hard work on this. And also, I just want to say, as a resident of Monrovia for 6 years, we have lived in previous 100-year-old homes. And so my husband and I have a great affinity for the architecture and structure of these homes and just the joy that they bring to the community and the residents. We're also very excited to be the owners of this current home at 115 May. And we were very excited to learn upon the purchase of it that it is a Tiffel home, and it was very exciting to go through and to be able to learn the history of this home and feel very grateful that the previous owners of 40 years really left it as is, and it does retain so much of the original architecture, windows, and just feels like walking into a little time capsule. So we just really appreciate this time and the consideration of our application and contract, and our hope is to be able to, as you know, Monrovia is very expensive, California is very expensive, and this is a tremendous asset for homeowners to be able to put back into these homes the love that they deserve and to keep them going, and as a beautiful part of our community for future generations. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of the application? I haven't seen anyone opposing the application. Great, then I'll bring it back to the council. Are there any questions?
No.
Then I will close the public hearing then and come back if there's any further question, discussion, deliberation. If not, then do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-29.
I second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Council members Belden?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
And Mayor Shevlin?
Yes. Congratulations, Rebecca. And so thank you very much. And thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Now moving on then to PH2, we have PH2 is Historic Landmark HL-173 and Mills Act Contract MA-161 for property located at 225 Highland Place by property owners Elisa Lau and David Liu, Resolution 2026-30. And so, Mr. Meyer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And good
Mayor
evening.
Meyer.
Good evening, yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. The owners of 225 Highland Place, Elisa Lau and David Liu, applied for both the Historic Landmark Designation and Mills Act contract. Staff met with them at their beautiful home this March this year just to walk the property, look closely at the architectural details, and discuss the preservation work that they intend to do over a 10-year period. What stood out to us during that visit was that they've clearly taken an interest in their house. They researched its history, they looked at the older photographs of the house, and they asked very thoughtful questions about restoration and repair work that respects the home's character. So tonight I'm just going to briefly go through the property's architecture, its association with notable architect Arthur Rowland Kelly, and the preservation work included in their Mills Act contract. Just for orientation, this property is located on the west end of town on Highland Place, just north of Foothill and just south of Hillcrest. This is in an area of older single-family homes from Monrovia's early 20th century, and this particular property is developed with a two-story craftsman house. And this was built in 1909, and this slide shows the house as it appears today from Highland Place, along with a little 1929 image from picturesque Monrovia. This 1929 image is really helpful to us as a reference point. When we compare the current image with the earlier one, we can see that the home's overall form and roof line are very recognizable today. They're still with us. It has its broad porch, its granite stonework, and the craftsman character. They're all still very clearly visible today. So starting with the overall form, the house has many of the features we typically see in a craftsman house. The roof has that low-pitched gable style. The broad overhanging eaves with exposed rafter tails, beams, and knee braces are all highly visible. And the use of wood shingle and clapboard siding, all very typical craftsman features. But what makes this house especially distinctive is those granite stone porch details and that porte cochere feature that crosses the driveway, giving the house that very special handcrafted craftsman quality. And you'll notice on the second floor in the middle there's a gently curved window bay, and there are a lot of the window details have a diamond-shaped appearance to them. So overall, staff and the Historic Preservation Commission agreed that this residence has retained significant important features that's needed to convey its historic character and architectural significance. Another important part of this landmark nomination is the home's association with architect Arthur Rowland Kelly. Kelly is noted in the city's historic context statement as a significant architect in Los Angeles. His early work carries very special weight because he worked with Green & Green, the renowned architectural firm in Pasadena that helped define the high-style craftsman architecture in Southern California. And what's especially interesting here is that 225 Highland Place is one of 3 Kelly-associated homes on this street. 173 Highland Place is already designated as a historic landmark number 7, and research also identifies 174 Highland Place as a Kelly-associated. So we have a nice little group here of high-styled craftsman homes. And so for that reason, this property also supports that designation criterion 2, representing the work of a notable architect. In addition to the landmark designation, the property owners are also requesting a Mills Act contract. And for this property, the work program's focused on preserving the home's historic features while also addressing some major maintenance and safety needs over the next 10 years. The work also includes some seismic evaluation and retrofit if needed, roof replacement and sheathing repair, electrical system upgrades, and exterior repairs to the siding, soffits, trim, and painted wood features. So as beautiful as this home looks from the street, if you look closely, there are some areas that need some help, and this Mills Act contract will certainly help with that. So given that, in summary, staff and the Historic Preservation Commission have found that 225 Highland Place qualifies for landmark designation under 2 criteria. Under criterion 2, the residence is attributed to Arthur Rowland Kelly, a notable architect whose work is recognized in the city's historic context statement. Did I turn that off? Okay. Sorry about that. I may have hit a button here. Also under criterion 4, the house embodies the distinctive characteristics of the craftsman style. So the Historic Preservation Commission reviewed this request on May 27th and unanimously recommended approval. Therefore, staff recommends that the City Council designate 225 Highland Place as Historic Landmark Number 173 and Mills Act Contract MA 161 with the property owners. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to respond to any questions of the council.
Any questions of Mr. Mayor? Thank you. This is a public hearing, and so I will open it up now. Are the applicants here this evening? I don't see them. Anyone wanting to speak on behalf of the project or the applicant? Anyone wanting to speak against it, oppose the application? Well, not seeing either. Does anyone have any further questions? Then I will close the public hearing, and then we will open it up for any kind of discussion or deliberation.
I'll give you a
Motion?
motion.
All right, Mr. Spicer?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-30.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we also find that the project is categorically exempt from the review under the California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15331. Can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmembers Belden?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
And Mayor Shevlin?
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving. on
Good
to-
report, John.
Yes, thank you, John. We are moving on then to public hearing number 3, and at this time, as I announced earlier, I will be recusing myself because of a conflict of interest, and I will be leaving it into the good hands of Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Madam
Be
Mayor.
sure to come and get me when you come.
Yes, we'll try not to forget. If you want to go home, it's okay, we'll call you.
Leave the tacos alone.
Okay, thank you. Now we are moving on to PH3. This is in regards to a tentative tract map and minor exemption to subdivide one lot into 14 airspace condominium units and allow one use of common recreation space as a substitute for private recreation space for the property located at 1232 South Mayflower Avenue. Staff, please present.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kelly, and good evening, council members. And tonight before you, we do have a tentative tract map and minor exception. So the subject site is located at 1232 South Mayflower Avenue. The site is located in the RH Residential High Density Zone. This lot is currently developed with 5 residential units, which are proposed for demolition. The applicant proposes to construct a multifamily development project similar in size and density to those within the adjacent neighborhood. Rather than construct another rental property, which would be allowed by right, the applicant has chosen to construct condominiums, which would allow individual ownership of the units themselves. However, in order to do that, the project requires the approval of the tentative tract map to subdivide the parcel into 14 proposed condominiums, which would subdivide the airspace above the singular lot, which is before you tonight. In addition to the tract map, the applicant is also requesting a minor exception to allow the use of common recreation space as a substitute for private recreation space. Here we see the conceptual view of the front elevation of the proposed 14 units. This project was reviewed for compliance with objective design standards. These are measurable design-related requirements such as exterior materials and finishes, architectural elements, building entries, blank walls, and grading. The project was also reviewed for compliance with the zoning development standards of the RH Residential High Density Zone. The project does meet all the development standards except for the recreation space to which the applicant is requesting the minor exception. So here we have the tentative tract map. This is the ground floor. It's split up into 2 sections. This is the ground floor garages. So the proposed condominiums are 3 stories in size. 2 floors of residential with subterranean 2-car garages for each unit. So the garages are subterranean or underground, and the residentials would be at grade. Here we see the tract map again with the underground garages. And here we have the outline of the first and second floor of each of those. The proposed tract map, the condos range from approximately 1,700 to 1,800 square feet in size. There are about 3 floor plans that are proposed. They're ranging from 2-bed, 2 baths with a balcony to 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, each again with a 2-car garage. All the areas that are not highlighted in the images are common areas that would be maintained by the HOA. The subject site will provide ample access, parking, and utilities would all be provided on site. And the proposed tentative tract map does meet the required findings in that it is consistent with the general plan, the zoning requirements. The site is physically suitable to accommodate the 14 units, and it does comply with the Subdivision Map Act, which has been reviewed by the city engineer. As stated earlier, the applicant is also proposing a minor exception, and this is to use common recreation space as a substitute for private recreation space. And this is because Monrovia Municipal Code requires each unit to provide recreation space equal to 20% of the unit's size. And however, the code does allow a combination of both common and private recreation space, usually at a 50-50 split. However, in a lot of potential designs, that causes issues in terms of attaining the number of units or the setbacks that's required by the municipal code. And actually, the code allows, the code requires private recreation space to be located at ground level. So the balconies that are included in the development are not counted towards that requirement, unfortunately. And as such, the applicant is proposing the minor exception request, which the code does allow the opportunity to ask for this minor exception to use additional common area as a substitute for private recreation area. So the approval of the minor exception, as you can see in the site plan, would allow for a 109 square foot private yard for each of the individual units, and the proposed common area would be proposed larger at just over 2,700 square feet. This larger common space would provide amenities such as a barbecue area, additional seating, and covered patio or gazebo. This proposed design does meet the required findings for a minor exception, as the recreation space will remain functional, accessible, and usable. The common area provides enhanced utility and usability than the private yard space, and that the proposed design maintains the intent of the recreation space requirements. It should be noted that this project was reviewed before the Planning Commission on May 13th, 2026, and they did unanimously recommend approval to the City Council with the conditions listed in the staff report. This concludes my presentation. Staff is recommending approval of the tentative tract map and minor exception, and both myself as well as the applicant, Todd Bowden, are here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions for staff at this time?
No, not right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, now we are opening up for public hearing. So if there's anyone that's here that would like to speak for this project, you're welcome to come at this time. Hello there. And if you could introduce yourself, would be great.
Good evening, council members. My name is Todd Bowden, representing Bowden Development. I think we have a pretty straightforward project based on the density, the neighborhood. We do have the one little issue with the private yard space, but as Austin mentioned, and thank you, Austin, for a great report, we do have additional balconies that would have compensated for that open space that are accessed from the interior, but because they're on the second floor, they don't count. It has to be a ground floor open space. But we do overcome that by bringing in a lot of common area space, and I think it's very functional with the design at the rear of the property. The new homeowners will have a great opportunity to utilize that space. So other than that, I'm here to answer any questions if you have any additional questions. But thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for the applicant?
No, I was at the planning commission meeting.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? You can do so at this time. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'm going to go back to council and ask if there's, if there's anything that you'd like to talk it over about or anything you'd like to discuss, and if not, you can
No, I think
propose
it's
a
a
motion.
pretty straightforward project. So I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-26.
I'll second.
Okay. Can we go ahead and go for a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Belton,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Dr. Kelly.
Yes. Okay, can someone go and get,
And before we do that,
Yes.
I just want to read for the record that the city's action on the item is final tonight, and the time to bring a legal action to challenge the item is limited by Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6.
okay, thank you so much. Well, since Becky's taking so long, we're going to go ahead and end the meeting.
You didn't hear the gravel?
Yeah, that was my chance.
Okay. Now, the next three public hearings, those are compliance hearings, and we're holding the public hearing because statute provides that we must hold them. There is no applicant, and we will hear the staff report, open the public hearing for any public comment, and then close again and return to council for a motion and vote. So we will start with PH4, adoption of the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, Resolution 2026-28. And we have Brittany Jasso here, Public Works Management Analyst, to present for us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Shevlin and members of the City Council. My name is Brittany Hasso, and I'm a management analyst here in the Public Works Department. I'm here tonight to present on the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan. Tonight's objectives are to hold a public hearing, adopt resolution number 2026-28, approving the Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and to authorize staff to submit the approved plan and resolution to the Department of Water Resources as required by the state. So, what is an urban water management plan? The Urban Water Management Planning Act, also known as Assembly Bill 797, was enacted in 1983, and it requires all urban water suppliers to prepare an urban water management plan. The city is considered an urban water supplier because we do serve more than 3,000 service connections and deliver more than 3,000 acre-feet of water annually. The plan is a long-range water resource planning document that is updated every 5 years, and it spans a planning horizon of 25 years to address evolving water supply and demand conditions. The 2025 plan was prepared by the city's consultants at Stetson Engineers and is based on data from the years of 2021 through 2025. It lays out how the city will respond to varying scenarios such as a normal year, a single-year drought, and a 5 consecutive year drought. The plan must address 5 core components that are listed here on the screen. The following slides will go through each component individually. The first component is water use and supply characterization. The city's primary water source is groundwater from the Main San Gabriel Basin. The basin is managed by the Main San Gabriel Basin Water Master, who coordinates all pumping rights throughout all of the basin's producers. The city does have flexibility to adjust its groundwater pumping, and it maintains a cyclic storage account, which is it serves as a reserve account for the city for pumping rights if that's ever needed. The second component is water service reliability and the drought risk assessment. So after Stetson concluded their analysis, they determined that the city's water supply is reliable in meeting demands for a normal year, a single year drought, and a 5 consecutive year drought through the year 2050. The plan also includes a drought risk assessment, which the department also submits annually to the state. It includes a review of the water supply through a 5 consecutive year drought, and it anticipates the city's water demands before activating any water shortage levels. Following that, we have component Senate Bill X7-7, Water Use Targets and Compliance. The Water Conservation Act of 2009, also known as SB X7-7, required the state to reduce its water consumption by 20%. A water use target was set at 160 gallons per capita per day for the city. As you can see on the slide, the city was under and successfully remained in compliance by staying under the set target. Now, conservation isn't a new practice to the city. As you can see by these numbers, water customers have done a great job of conserving over the years under council and city staff's guidance. The next component is going to be the water shortage contingency plan. This establishes water demand reductions for varying levels of water shortages, and it outlines the city's responses should we need to activate any of these levels of reductions. Most of us are familiar with these shortage levels. During the most recent drought a couple years ago, the city activated level 1, requiring all of its water customers to reduce their water consumption by 10%. The last component is the demand management measures. The plan lays out demand management measures that the city actively takes part in, such as restrictions on wasting water, metering all of our service connections, public outreach and education on conservation programs that are offered by the city. For example, we do offer free outdoor water conservation kits to all of our residents, and we advertise these in the Monrovia Today and the city manager updates. We also monitor the distribution system for any water losses, and we are currently transitioning our meters to an advanced metering infrastructure system. To bring this to a close, we did compare the 2020 plan to the updated 2025 plan and found only minor changes. The reason for this is because the city has enough water supply and conserves, putting us in a good position for the next 5 years. As you can see in the table, most of the changes were administrative, such as extending the planning horizon and updating demand projections. Overall, the city's water supply is reliable through 2050. We have remained below and in compliance with the state's water use target. The city has multiple demand management measures in place, and the water shortage contingency plan contains 6 water shortage levels that are ready to be activated if necessary. With that, staff requests council take the following actions. First, open the public hearing, receive any public testimony. Following the close of the public hearing, adopt resolution number 2026-28 and authorize staff to submit the adopted plan and resolution to the Department of Water Resources in accordance with the Urban Water Management Planning Act. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Yes, Brittany, just a little question. Now that the adoption keeps us eligible for state grants and loans, are there any upcoming funding opportunities that can position us to pursue?
Yes, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation just had an informational webinar for bigger scale water efficiency projects. It's a grant.
That's good. I'm sorry, I usually get my questions to you guys prior to the meeting, but this was a lot. I'll hold my other question until I talk with Alex directly.
And I
But you
was,
did a good job. Excellent.
Thank you.
This is really good.
good report. I just had a question. How do we use this report on a day-to-day operationally? I mean, do we refer to this report at all when we approve projects and things like that? Or is it something like what Larry was talking about and asking about? It does obviously qualify us for certain funding and things like that.
That's a very good question.
Alex, he's jumping. Yeah.
Like you got a parachute on.
Yeah.
Great question, Mayor. The answer to both is yes. We do reference it in our day-to-day operation. It also is a valuable resource for us to go after grants and other programs. Whenever we go after projects or there's any operational requirements on an annual basis, they're all outlined in the urban water management plan. And so it's our master plan for the water system. And so it helps guide what we do over the next 5 years.
Because I know that that's a very frequent question that comes up all the time about whether or not we've got enough water, so that we can always go then and look to this report, I'm assuming.
But how do you project it to 2050?
Yeah.
How do you, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, great question. I know some of the mechanics behind the development of the plan can be a little wonky. You look at what the past 5 years of data and consumption are. You look at what the production trends are. You also then look at what the SCAG projections are. So referencing the references in the Urban Water Management Plan, look at SCAG's projection at what Monrovia's population would be based on SCAG's projections then, and then it looks like what SCAG is projecting is that our population would be a little over 43,000 by 2050. So roughly a 10% growth, and so then looking at 10% growth, looking at the health of the basin and where they think the basin will be at, you're looking at then projections for all the other producers and cities that are in the basin. Based on that, then Stetson Engineers, the consultant that we're working with, who is also the consulting engineer for the basin, provides that recommendation to say that we have a safe and reliable water supply.
Is there any trigger that requires amendment?
Really, that would only come up on an emergency basis. So if council recalls, several years ago, we had some pretty severe drought conditions. The governor had enacted several conservation measures. At that point in time, I believe it was 3 to 4 years of consecutive drought, so we didn't quite get to that 5th year. But when you go beyond 5 consecutive years of severe drought, you do look at what mechanics you have in place. Do you declare a state of emergency? Do you have to amend your urban water management plan? Based on those trends, then that would be your bigger triggers.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay,
I had a couple, but just, I mean, just getting to the question about the projections, I know that we are looking at population increases, of course. I hope it's built in there, though, that the actual daily use is going to be going down per person. I know it shows us using more water overall as a city, but I hope we're just being, as getting to your point of like some of those grants out there for using less water. I would hope that we were trying to really limit, because I do notice that even in the past 2 years, since 2023, we've actually gone back up a bit in our usage. So I think what we could do as much as we can to make sure we keep drilling home the idea that there's not a lot of water out there, and whatever we have left, we should really try to protect and conserve as much as possible. So just hoping that we make sure if we didn't do it this time, make sure next time we actually really try to dial those numbers down, so we're not just, sometimes we want to leave like, oh, we might need a lot, but we don't really want to say that if we want to try to hit a goal, which is actually reducing overall, especially with more of our urban development, which you're using a lot less water on each parcel and each user. So.
Okay, this is a public hearing. So is there anyone wanting to make public comment? Either for or against, just any public comment? Not seeing any, so then I will close that portion, come back to council, and unless there's further discussion or deliberation, do you have a motion?
Well, Brittany.
To make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026 I'm sorry, I got the wrong one. Yes, 2026-28.
Yes. Can we have a roll call vote? Oh, I need a second first.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote?
Council members Belden?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly?
Yes.
Spicer?
Brittany, this keeps us on solid footing, and yes.
Thank you.
And Mayor Shevlin?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, then PH5, which is confirming the levy and collection of assessments for the fiscal year 2026-27, citywide lighting and landscaping maintenance district resolution number 2026-33V. Is that what that says? And we have Ray Bowman, its Administrative Services Director, will present.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor Shevlin and members of City Council. The public hearing item before you tonight does not have presentation slides, but it is part of our annual procedures. This is the confirmation of the levy for our citywide lighting and landscape district for fiscal year 26-27. As council is aware, this assessment provides for the maintenance of street lights and traffic signals, street trees, street median and parkway areas, as well as the Gold Hills Parkway areas. And each year, the city is required to complete a series of procedural steps as part of compliance procedures required by law. These procedures include the following steps. The first is to initiate the proceedings and order the engineer's report, which was done on March 17, 2026. Second is to review and approve the engineer's report, which was completed on May 19th. Third is to acknowledge the intent to levy the assessment and to set the time and place to conduct a public hearing, which was also completed on May 19th. And fourth and lastly is to conduct the public hearing and confirm the levy of the assessment. This evening, we're looking to complete the fourth step, which is to conduct the public hearing and confirm the levy and collection of assessments for the upcoming fiscal year 26-27. As council is aware, property owners approved a ballot measure that allowed the city to collect a fixed annual assessment for the lighting and landscape district. So for fiscal year 26-27, these assessment rates will remain fixed at their current rates and will not change. So for example, a single-family dwelling unit located in Zone 1A will be assessed $56.23, which is the same assessment amount as the prior year. If approved tonight, the county auditor controller will assess these rates on property tax bills for fiscal year 26-27. Based on the engineer's report, the total amount that will be assessed for fiscal year 26-27 is approximately $1,086,736. So at this time, staff recommends conducting the public hearing and adopting resolution number 2026-33 to confirm the levy and assessment for fiscal year 26-27 citywide lighting and landscape maintenance district. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Ray? This is a public hearing, so I will open that up. Is there any public comment from anyone present that would like to either for or against, just make public comment? Not seeing any, then I will close that portion, close the public hearing, come back to council, and do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-34.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Council members Belden,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Shevlin.
Yes. Okay,
Mayor Shevlin, can I just clarify, the resolution that was approved for item PH5 is resolution 2026-33. The next agenda item, PH6, will be 2026-34.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify
Oh,
that
okay.
last action, the number mentioned was -34. It should be -33 for
Is
the
that-
record.
That little V, is that supposed to be in there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Our apologies.
Okay, no
Thank you.
problem. Thank you very much. Okay, then moving on to our last public hearing of the evening, and it's confirming the levy and collection of assessments for the fiscal year 2026-27 for Park Maintenance District, Resolution Number 2026-34.
Thank you.
And that's Ray again.
Yes, thank you so much. And this is our second citywide assessment district. So thank you again, Mayor Shevlin and members of City Council. This item before you is the confirmation of the levy for the Park Maintenance District for fiscal year 26-27. And as council is aware, this maintenance district provides funding to maintain the city's 9 parks. Similar to the lighting and landscape district, the city is required to complete a series of annual procedural steps as part of our compliance procedures, which are required by law. And again, these procedures include the following steps. The first is to initiate the proceedings and order the engineer's report, which was done on March 17, 2026. Second is to review and approve the engineer's report, which was done on May 19th. The third is to acknowledge the intent to levy the assessment and to set the time and place to conduct a public hearing, which was also done on May 19th. And fourth and lastly, it's to conduct the public hearing and confirm the levy of the assessment. This evening, we're looking to complete the fourth and final step, which is to conduct this public hearing and confirm the levy and collection of assessments for the upcoming fiscal year 26-27. As background, the district was approved with a provision that allows for annual CPI increases, and the CPI increase for fiscal year 26-27 is 3.017%, which is an increase of 48 cents to the assessment rate. This takes the rate from $15.74 to $16.22 per dwelling unit. If approved, the county auditor controller will assess this rate on property tax bills for fiscal year 26-27. The total amount to be assessed for fiscal year 26-27 is approximately $321,760. So at this time, staff recommends conducting the public hearing and adopting resolution number 2026-34, confirming the levy and assessments for fiscal year 26-27 Park Maintenance District. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Any questions of Ray? This is a public hearing. I will open it up. Anyone wanting to make public comment for or against, or just make a public comment this time? Not seeing any, I will close the public hearing and come back to council. So unless there are any further discussion or deliberation, do we have a motion?
So move to adopt resolution number 2026-34.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmembers Belden?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
And Mayor Shevlin?
Yes. Great. Thank you very much. And then going back to our agenda, we're just moving right along. Going to our reports of city manager and staff, RCM1, a city council directives update. Mr. Feek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few items I'd like to brief you on. You have the directives log in front of you as part of the agenda packet, but I'd like to speak to a few items. Some mentioned earlier this evening during a public comment period also. I want to just share that there has been some unplanned outages, power outages in the community. We've been receiving some reports. So while Alex has been stepping in to help with presentations, he's also been stepping out or working quietly to work with Edison to try to get reports. There has been power restored certain parts of northwest Monrovia, parts of central Monrovia, but there are still a few remaining areas of unplanned outages elsewhere. We'll keep working on those, but it looks like forecasts are they'll have them back on by 11 o'clock tonight. One update I'd like to provide to council is the city has submitted a Records Act request to the California Highway Patrol. This is in relation to the investigative report into the death of Carlos Roberto Montoya Valdez. We received a request for a second extension on June 10th last week, which requests up to an additional 30 days. At this time, CHP has continued to provide no information other than a response to our records request. So we'll continue trying. I know there are many community members who have asked, but we have not received any additional information from the governor's office. We've submitted Official Records Act. We've been been given the letters of extension. Just want to make sure that the public is aware.
Do they have unlimited extensions?
I don't. I think what's we're going to know here fairly soon is if they continue to use this approach in sharing these extensions. It is a public record. Now, when that could become a record that they disclose, or whether they refuse to disclose it because there's an active investigation or potential crime, there may be reasons that they don't provide the record. So we just don't know. But they are going to have to provide us an official response, which is either the record we've requested, proof that or demonstrate that there is no records subject to our request, or a rejection notice, and whatever the language is for the reason of that rejection. So.
Thank you.
Finally, the last comment I'd like to make, there was a gentleman who spoke about the Monrovia Pride Book Festival happening this weekend. I just want to clarify to any members of the listening public or anyone who reads about the recap of the meeting, this event is a private event by a nonprofit. They request through the city's facility rental process use of a city facility. The city of Monrovia does not condone, we do not filter, we review these requests to see that they comply with our facility rental processes and procedures. And so when the questions came up about does the city council condone or do we support, the answer is we do not review these applications or use of city facilities to determine if it's appropriate in our minds. Government can't do that. We just simply look at the application as does it meet the criteria for them to use that public space. And in this case, it does. In the past experience I personally have had, our officers have had, many of our community members have had with this bookstore, I think we have every reason to believe that the event will go according to what's been planned and what's been submitted with us. We know many community members who are supportive of the event, who are excited to attend. For those who are not interested in attending, we just simply recommend that they don't go. The event will be Saturday from 12 to 6. We have included the information in the city manager's weekly update, which is again standard for when there are free community events to the public. And I just wanted to make sure that those points were made clear after the comments made earlier today. That'd be my report this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then moving on then to our CM2 update from the Los Angeles County Assessor, which I understand we don't have Mr. Prang is not here, and there's no other representative at this time. So I am assuming he'll come back at a later date, and we hope all is well with Mr. Prang. Then moving on to our city council reports, and I will start with Mr. Belden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, it's been a while since we've gathered together, but I'm going to be a little short on my updates. Just wanted to say it was great to see so many different graduations happening. I had the honor to go and join some folks at the Monrovia High School graduation, and just excited to see so many of our youth celebrating their tremendous achievements, and it just brings a little joy and optimism since we see so many people that are looking forward to their future. It's great. And this past weekend, I was actually out with our mayor, another member of the community, and wanted to thank Dr. Anthony Fellow, Director Dr. Anthony Fellow, for his invitation to join Metropolitan Water District on a tour of our state water project. So we had a chance to go up to Oroville, Lake Oroville, and make our way down from there at many of the sites to just see where our water comes from, or one of the sources of our potential water, and one of our backup sources, really, in our case. So just great opportunity. So thanks to Upper Water District for supporting that effort, and it was a great eye-opening experience. I hope that many of you probably see it on the 5 as you drive up and down. And I am just, last thing, as I am looking forward to going to that Pride Book event on Saturday. So thank you.
Mr. Spicer.
Okay. Okay, regarding the summer concerts in the park and Station Square, we have 2 concerts remaining in our Station Square series, and both promise great music and great energy. Sunday, June 21st, what is that, the Suave, the band? And Sunday, Cold Duck, which will enlighten us with old school. Then we'll shift to Library Park beginning June 12th, featuring the always popular Blue Breeze Band. Then following that, we'll have movies in the park, so save the date. Our summer movie series kicks off Saturday, July 18th at Station Square, and they'll be showing Disney Cars, Pixar Cars. So bring your blankets, lawn chairs, and family for a fun evening under the stars. Then we have our fabulous 4th of July celebration, America's 250th birthday. Monrovia is gearing up for a special Independence Day as we celebrate our nation's 250th birthday, July 4th. Some of our quick tips we have for you regarding the park viewing. Spaces are limited to a 10 by 10 footprint. Reservations open the morning of July 4th for everyone. All spaces must remain supervised. Parking is first come, first served in all official event lots. And arrive early. Maps are available online and on the event flyers. Regarding pets, the concert fireworks are free, but they can be loud. So we encourage you to keeping your pets that are sensitive to loud noise inside and safely at home. More information, contact the community center with any questions you might have. We also have a family hike and camp out. One of our most beloved outdoor traditions returns Saturday, June 27th at 12 p.m. through Sunday, June 28th, and it'll end at 12 p.m. Reservations are now open and this program fills quickly. Families are encouraged to secure their spot as soon as possible. Okay, regarding our summer program opportunities for teens, which is our actual SPA program, it is back at Library Park every Friday through August the 7th. The program begins at 5 p.m. This is a great opportunity for our teens to connect, learn, and enjoy safe, structured activities throughout the summer. This past weekend, staff put on a fantastic block party at Julian Fisher Park. It was an awesome event. And wow, Dylan, they're taking the map up to a level. How are we going to beat it next year? You know, that's the question. How are you going
You're going to cook barbecue.
Okay. That's a lot of barbecue.
I'm
because they have 375 to 400 people there. So I can't cook for that many people. But anyway, that's my report, Mayor.
Great, thank you.
Sure, anything else?
Oh, you want me to go on some more?
Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, I
Hello.
got to take up for Sergio.
Thank you very much. And to Councilmember Larry's point, the MAP event was wonderful. It was a beautiful day. Usually it's super, super hot. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable. But that particular day, we just got a little bit of breeze going on, and it was a beautiful day. Lots of community was out. It was well organized, and it's just really good to see. And it's really good to see also Larry. What I noticed about Councilmember Spicer is that he patrols the food and the food alone. He doesn't move beyond that, so I don't know what that's all about, but he really works that food table, all things food. So, but it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful event. I also had an opportunity to go to the pool at the first day of the opening of the summer swim at Monrovia High School. And I just want to share with you, well, number one, the kids were having a great time and very excited to be there. But one of the stories I walked away with, which was amazing, there was a gentleman that was sitting on the benches, and he was putting his shoes on, and he had been in the pool. And I said, "Oh, are you here with your children?" And he says, "No." He says, "I'm on my lunch break. I work at home. I work right by the high school." And he said, "Thank you guys for doing this. This is amazing." He says, "I just came over for a swim," and he was really excited to even have that opportunity. And I didn't even consider that that adults would appreciate it as much as the children did. So it was just a great day, and I'm glad to see, hopefully we'll get some really great reports. And I tell you, the lifeguards were on it. They were really hands-on, paying attention, the YMCA lifeguards. So I think that's going to be a great partnership along with the school district. So I hope it turns out to be a very successful partnership. So that's all I have.
Okay. I did want to ask, Dylan, did you want to say anything about the All America City event?
Absolutely. I appreciate you offering, because I have another item that I even forgot to, but All America City event this Thursday at 6 o'clock. Our delegation is going to be meeting to prepare for our presentation in Denver. The event will be next week. Let me just share the dates where several of us will be unavailable. We will be in Denver the weekend of the 25th through the 29th. So what many community members don't know is that we arrive in Denver with the delegations from 19 other cities, as well as the National Civic League. And there's kind of an opening ceremony, there's educational sessions, like an informational conference. There's a lot of practicing and rehearsals, and each one of the delegations makes their presentation to the judges. And then there's a civic fair on Friday night where we showcase our towns. We have a lot of great displays. We have food from Trader Joe's. We have some great just giveaways that we're going to make. We really were a pretty popular table 2 years ago, and we're really hopeful and optimistic to be the same this year. And then on Sunday night, they'll do the reveal of the 10 All-America cities. So it's such an achievement to be a finalist. What's going to be really exciting about this is we're showcasing some of our partnerships with the school district through the adult school. We have community members who have helped with not only Biking for Bucks, but our Walk Bike Roll events. And then we also have our SGV Care team, including clinicians and even a community member who has been the beneficiary of the program. And we're going to make the presentation all about them. So the council, we're going to be there, and the staff, we're going to be there cheering as loud as we can while they tell the story of these community programs that are improving their lives. And in just speaking with some of them today, some of them are so excited to be able to represent. They're so proud of the work that they do. And so it's going to be very exciting. And honestly, win or lose, we have a lot to be proud of in the work that we're doing. And to be able to share it with the community. One other item I'd like to share, if I could, is next week on Thursday evening, we're going to try out a World Cup watch party at Recreation Park. So it's putting it together a little bit quickly. We're going to do our very best to educate and inform community members. While some of us are in Denver representing our community, we also want the community to show up and represent very well as they cheer for the United States in their final group game next Thursday at 7 o'clock. So we'll have information going out here very soon. We're very grateful to Pacific Productions that can help put on the event, and we're hopeful that it's just a wonderful opportunity for families to come out. It's a great way that we can also bring people into Old Town on Thursday evenings during the summer. So it's added activity and reason for people to come hang out in Old Town Monrovia in the middle of the summertime. So I just want to share that. It's Library Park. Did I say? Yeah. Okay, good.
Hey, Dylan,
Library Park.
Dylan, the fire department received an award or something.
Yeah, I was going to include that on my.
Well, I was trying to throw it on too.
I'll let the mayor share that part.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I wanted to make sure that we covered that. Under my report, I am very happy to present the recommendations for commissions and board appointments, and that will be then with the approval of our council as well. The Planning Commission, Councilmember Edward Belden, liaison to the Planning Commission, and Commission Chair Halia Brown, and Community Development Director Sherry Bermejo, and Planning Division Manager John Mayer interviewed the applicants, and the committee recommends the reappointment of Scott Austin and Gary Scheffler. Can I do these, Chelsea, all at the same time?
Yes, that is fine.
Okay, great. To the commission for a term of 3 years ending June 30th, 2029. To the Historic Preservation Commission, we had Mayor Pro Tem Sergio Jimenez, liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission, and Commission Chair Vicki Hansen, Community Development Director Sherry Bermejo, and Planning Division Manager John Mayer interviewed applicants, and the committee recommends the reappointment of Michael Falcone and the appointment of Margaret Page to the commission for a term of 3 years ending June 30th, 2029. To Community Services Commission, Councilmember Larry Spicer, liaison to the Community Services Commission, Vice Chair Judy Scheffler, Community Services Director Rebecca Sandoval, and Recreation Manager Heather Sayers interviewed applicants. The committee recommends the appointment of Mark Cabrero and Ainsley Carreno to the commission for a term of 3 years ending June 30th, 2029. Library Board, Councilmember Dr. Tamala Kelly, liaison to the Library Board President Betsy Woodford, Community Services Director Rebecca Sandoval, and Library Division Manager Carrie Vance interviewed applicants. The committee recommends the reappointment of John Carlson and the appointment of Mary Wall to the board for a term, and I'll just mention Mary Wall is Dan Wall's wife, and he's the operator of the drum store. I know there are other new people, but she stands out to me because I was the docent at their house for the, the home tour. At any rate, they are appointed to a term of 3 years ending June 30th, 2029. The committee recommends the appointment of Nina Hogue. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but to fill the unexpired term of Shelley Caterino, ending June 30th, 2028. And then our Monrovia Old Town Advisory Board, Councilmember Dr. Tamala Kelly, liaison to the Monrovia Old Town Advisory Board, Board Chair Daniel Wall, Community Services Director Rebecca Sandoval, and Recreation Manager Heather Sayers interviewed the applicants, and the committee recommends the reappointment of Ricardo Gerardo and Gina Ammon and Linda Hudson to the board for a term of 2 years ending June 30th, 2028. And with that, unless there's any objection, do we have a motion to accept all the recommendations?
So move.
Just, okay,
Oh, okay.
without any objection, then, so approved. And thank you very much for everyone that was involved in the interviews and all those who applied. And we will have the members of the various commissions that are not returning, we will have them recognized at a future council meeting. So with that, then, there is a letter in your packet here in support of AB 762, Irwin and Wilson. It's a ban on disposable vapes. It has to do primarily with the lithium batteries that are contained in those items that create issues in the trash stream. I did talk to Athens about this, and that is a difficult item to handle. That doesn't get rid of all lithium batteries, but any opportunity that we have to do that. Like I said, I received a letter asking for our support, and I am bringing it before you to see if you would like to write a letter as presented in your packet to support.
Well, even the recycling centers too are having problems.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good.
All right, then I can sign that and send it off. So that's without any objections, so we will do that. And then for my individual report, yes, I had the opportunity to attend 3 of the graduations and to be there when Tamala's daughter graduated from one of the adult school programs, so we congratulate her, and it was really exciting. They did something a little new, different at the high school graduation. They had a big screen showing the graduation as it was happening that was going out to the audience. So that was kind of.
And they had turned it. Turned
Yes.
the way it was
Yeah.
set up.
It was
nice.
It was very nice. Yes, yesterday, the fire department received the Golden Brain Award from the USC Arcadia Hospital, and hold on a second, I was going to read Jeremy's, come on.
It's right there.
Yeah. You're still here. Hey, come on down and let's talk about your great guys and the award that they received.
Briefly.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that was you sitting way back there in the back.
I've been told I do nothing briefly when it comes to talking, so I do apologize.
Well, I'll cut you off if it goes too long.
So yes, last week I was made aware that Arcadia USC was going to give us an award and our firefighters an award for the rapid treatment we have of a 76-year-old female that was experiencing stroke symptoms. So what the award does, it identifies that we were the fastest, this call was the fastest call from the time we arrived on scene to the time that the patient received definitive care and the surgery to relieve the blockage in her brain. So when we get on scene, we evaluate a patient. She had a LAM score of what we call it 5, so it's a stroke scale score, so which means she had no movement in her hands, could not speak, and when she walked out of the hospital with the LAM score is 0. So
That's
the time
wonderful.
from the
That's
arrival on
wonderful.
scene to the time that she received the surgery was 91 minutes. So we are one of 2 in LA County that received the award. So great work by our firefighters, great work by all involved. So it was a really great evening.
Well, be sure to convey from the whole council that we congratulate them. And I can speak from experience because my husband suffered a stroke. It's probably been almost 10 years ago now. But, and he literally had totally passed out. And at any rate, the Monrovia Fire Department got their lickety-split and got him to the hospital very, very quickly. And so he had very little damage because of that. And so I thank you, too.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy. See, you did a great job. Also, there was the Boys and Girls Club at the Foothills Family Carnival and Youth of the Year Rally, and Larry and I attended that on Sunday, May 31st, and that was at Recreation Park, and that made awards of Corporate Partner of the Year, the Burns team, and then the Boys and Girls Club Spirit Award, and that went to Darian Gitchaway, and Aiden G. received the 2026 Youth of the Year Award. Matthew Poe, the Volunteer of the Year, and then Todd and Christy Bowden received the Mary Wilcox Youth Advocacy Award on that Sunday. So we congratulate all of them as well in a very nice event at Recreation Park. I wanted to announce I have been honored with being elected again for chair of the Foothill Transit for another year. And I thank my executive board for electing me, so that was a very nice support from them. And then, yes, Edward and I enjoyed that trip, and thank you. The trip, we left at, we had to be at the airport at 6 a.m. in Burbank, and then we flew up to Sacramento, and then from there took a bus down all the way back. And so they went to Oroville Dam, and then all the way down. Pyramid Lake was the last stop. They have an awesome visitor center there. And we also stopped at a farm, and it was very, very interesting. You talk about the water use, and they talked about all their techniques and how they really have been able to reduce the use of water and their various techniques over the years, and especially, and they've got all sorts of scientific equipment that they can measure the moisture in the ground and the air and all sorts of things. So quite impressive as to how they can do that. There was one site that we let, and no pun intended, it's called Sites Reservoir, and they have been fighting to develop that location for 60 years. They seem to be very confident that they're finally going to make it, but not too
Reason it's been there for 60 years.
Yeah, not too sure about that. But they're trying to, and this would really be, it's really being promoted by the local residents, users, farmers, and whatnot. There's 22 of them, I think it was. Pretty sure it was 22 in groups that would be using it. But they're going to get their water rights soon, but no one has signed on the dotted line. So it's a lot of work to go to find out that somebody's going to back out. So at any rate, we'll see. But it was a great trip. I wanted to mention, I hope that we can connect with that Natalie Yoder that was talking about the traveling table. I wonder if she knows about our map trailer. It sounds like a very similar concept, but she might be interested in looking at that. And I think that I wanted to wish everyone a happy Father's Day coming up. And so happy Father's Day to all you dads out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that, then I think that does it under my report. I don't think I have any other, yeah. And so now we are moving to our administrative reports. I would like to ask, I guess maybe under my report, if, and I did send a text message to you, Dylan, about the timing of, and whether or not we take meetings off for election days, given the changes in the way elections are done these days. So this is a lot, especially in the month of June when we have to do things, get them done by the end of the fiscal year. So if, as a council, we can look at, maybe review that going forward.
So if I could, Becky, just to clarify, you had sent a text message earlier today just sharing your thoughts on the council has a city council policy where we do not hold council meetings on
Right.
dates of municipal
Right.
elections.
Right.
And so what I can do is I'll bring the policy back to share that with council
Okay.
as a reminder, and then we
Yes.
can decide how you'd like to
Yes.
proceed.
Well, because
Still have a council meeting?
yeah, because the reason we did it, that at one time, that it had to do with, we would have watch parties and the count was done and things like that. It's much, much different. We're not keeping anyone from voting. That wasn't our reason at all. It had to do with us getting results, or the primary reason was that we wanted to meet and have a count. And now the state takes 30, or more than 30 days, actually. But at any rate, it can come back for discussion at another meeting. At any rate, then, on our administrative reports, AR1, fiscal year 2026-2027 budget update, resolution 2026-37, fiscal year 2026-27 schedule of fees and charges, resolution 2026-38, and fiscal year 2026-27 authorized position listing staff. Oh, go. Yes, Ray, please present.
Thank you so much. Good evening again, Mayor Shevlin and members of City Council. Thank you for your time this evening. And the item before you is the fiscal year 26-27 budget update, which includes the charges for services and the authorized position listing. As council will recall, staff conducted 2 budget study sessions in May. The first focused on the city's capital improvement program and the proposed fees and charges for 26-27, and the second study session focused on the operating budget. So tonight's presentation is intended to provide a high-level recap of the information previously discussed during those study sessions and to seek formal adoption of the proposed budget. Hard copies of the presentation slides have been provided to you for reference, and additionally, we've printed the charges for services schedule on larger font for ease of review. So that's that big schedule you see in front of you. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, the purpose of tonight's presentation is a high-level review of information discussed during budget study sessions 1 and 2, present the fiscal year 26-27 budget update for City Council's consideration and approval, and answer any questions council may have regarding the proposed budget. So I'll begin with a high-level overview of the proposed 26-27 budget across all city funds, which is reflected on this table. And these figures include the capital improvement projects discussed during Budget Study Session 1. Overall, the proposed citywide budget includes approximately $213 million in revenues and approximately $153 million in expenditures. As a note, the increase in overall revenues is attributable not only to updated revenue estimates, but primarily to the rollover of state and federal reimbursements for Canyon Park, as well as the anticipated bond proceeds reflected in the special purpose funds. Detailed schedules supporting these figures have been included with your agenda packets tonight. So before diving into some detail, I wanted to review some of the budget drivers for fiscal year 26-27 that we discussed in Budget Study Session 2. While revenue growth has been strong, the challenge we're mainly facing lies in costs outpacing our revenues. So first budget driver that we'll discuss is CalPERS. It continues to fluctuate, and looking specifically at the city's UAL, the required payment has increased from approximately $1.3 million in fiscal year 24-25 to nearly $3.9 million in the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget. So while these costs have increased significantly over the last several years, recent CalPERS investment returns have exceeded the target rate of return for the last 2 consecutive reportable years, which is a positive trend that will help future UAL obligations moving forward. So staff is hopeful that UAL costs will improve, and the updated reports are expected to release from CalPERS in the next couple of months. Next, personnel costs, which make up approximately 65% of the city's general fund. It also continues to grow between 3 to 6% every year. Also, our maintenance and operations costs continue to be impacted by inflation, reflected in increases in supplies and materials costs, as well as contract services. And lastly, following the pandemic, the city's restored and perhaps expanded programs and service levels have increased ongoing operating costs compared to prior years. Now, to help offset the impacts of these various budget drivers, a variety of approaches were applied during the development of the proposed budget. First, fees were extensively reviewed and revenues were reevaluated using updated projections and estimates. Staff also reviewed budget line items and contracts throughout the organization to identify savings opportunities where appropriate. Vacancy savings and part-time staffing needs were also reviewed very closely. And lastly, the city continues to save money by paying the annual UAL obligation in a lump sum at the beginning of the year rather than over 12 monthly payments, which is estimated to save approximately $130,000 in fiscal year 26-27. Collectively, these efforts help reduce projected deficits in the general fund and other city funds. But over the next 12 months, staff will continue to identify additional options for closing the budget gap in fiscal year 26-27. So at this time, I'll do a brief overview of the general fund, including some of the major revenues and expenditures that roll into it. So the slide here provides a high-level summary of general fund revenues and expenditures. This will look familiar, but the proposed general fund revenues for 26-27 are approximately $62.8 million, while expenditures are approximately $65.2 million, resulting in an estimated deficit of $2.4 million. I did want to note that this is an improvement compared to the original 26-27 deficit projection of $2.65 million. We also, on this slide, wanted to separately identify the one-time PFAS settlement revenues that are being set aside for future use. And the bottom row here reflects what the deficit would look like without those one-time revenues. On this next slide, we'll take a closer look at general fund revenues specifically. So this slide here provides a year-over-year comparison of general fund revenues by category. And for 26-27, general fund revenues total $62.8 million. And overall, most major revenue categories are remaining relatively stable heading into 26-27, some even projecting growth. Property tax continues to show steady growth, increasing approximately 5.2% over the current year revised budget. Sales tax is also projected to increase modestly by approximately 2.6%.
Can I ask you something about that, Ray? have you had any conversations about what the passage of the ER and the half-cent increase might have as an impact on our overall sales tax? We don't get any of that money, but I was shocked when I was looking at the percentages as how many cities outside, especially in Orange County, still have a very low sales tax. It's 7 point something or 7.25. And so that's a pretty sizable difference, and it might get to the tipping point where people might decide, I'm going to go buy something. They either think it's too expensive to buy, or they're going to go outside of LA County to buy it because that tax is only for LA County. So I just wondered if there had been any consideration in calculating that that amount for if that was going to affect it at all.
These projections don't currently include any assumptions on how those might impact the sales and transactions activity within the city, but we'll definitely stay in close connection with our sales tax consultants at HDL to see if it will, when it will, and how it might impact it over the next quarter.
If I understand correctly, it's an immediate tax, and so it would go into effect, I believe, in July. October? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So transfers in, charges for services, and other revenues are also showing increases based on updated projections and operational activity. So one of the larger decreases reflected on this slide is project revenues, which is primarily related to those one-time PFAS settlement revenues received in the current fiscal year that are not anticipated to continue at the same levels in 26-27. This slide provides a breakdown of general fund expenditures by category, totaling approximately $65.2 million. Personnel costs represent the largest expenditure category within the general fund at approximately $43.9 million, increasing approximately 5.8% to account for salary adjustments and increases in health insurance and other benefit costs. Maintenance and operation costs remain relatively stable, and this is actually where you'll see departments had worked on reducing their budgets for 26-27. Under this category, you'll see the 2.9% decrease compared to the current fiscal year. Overall, general fund expenditures are increasing approximately 3.9% over the current year budget. As Council is aware, the general fund gets combined with other general purpose funds in our annual comprehensive financial report. This slide provides the combined general fund view reflected within the ACFR. And as shown on this table, when the general fund is combined with the related Measure K, emergency events, and water conservation funds, total combined revenues of approximately $84.1 million exceed expenditures of approximately $67 million for the 26-27 budget. One major item reflected in this combined view is the anticipated emergency events reimbursement revenues associated with Canyon Park, reflected in that $13.37 million figure under the revenue column for the 26-27 proposed budget. Next, we'll move on to Measure K. As Council will recall, back in December of 2024, Council approved the Measure K spending plan totaling approximately $16 million, funding 7 unique projects. In May of this year, Council approved updates to the spending plan reflecting the anticipated reduction in cost related to the library enhancement project and a nominal adjustment to the community center project, which overall reduced the Measure K spending plan to approximately $10.1 million, which is the table you see on this slide. The table on this slide provides the spending plan by project, but most of them are complete. Specifically for 26-27, Measure K revenues are budgeted at $7.92 million, and expenditures are budgeted at $1.76 million. Previous study sessions with City Council between February and March of this year identified Measure K as the primary source of repayments for the anticipated bond issuance for our major capital projects. And if the city proceeds with bond financing in fall of this year, the first principal payment won't be due until fiscal year 27-28. So as a result, the proposed Measure K budget for 26-27 currently only includes the estimated interest payment of approximately $1.5 million. The table on this slide details the proposed 26-27 Measure K expenditure assumptions, which again includes the interest payment, the continuation of the enhanced senior programming, and a small additional cost for the community center project, resulting in a total Measure K expenditure budget of $1.76 million for 26-27. I did want to note that any bond financing budget assumptions are estimates at this point in time and will be updated as financing options are evaluated and discussed with City Council.
Ray?
Yep.
There's like a lot of items from Measure K that were tucked into this year's, right? That probably are going to roll into next year. That not included in this then, right?
Yes, so a lot of the projects on the approved Measure K spending plan here, the 10.1 million, are actually already completed. A lot of them are almost completed. For example, the Peck and Mountain Road repair improvement projects. Those are pretty much wrapping up. But as you can see, the 7 unique projects, most of them will be completed within the next few months. If there are any activities that need to roll into 26-27, we'll surely do a Q1 budget adjustment to make sure that they're reflected in 26-27. But as of right now, the only items that we've rolled are the senior programming, enhanced senior programming, as well as some residual costs for the community center project design, in addition to the 1.5 million estimated interest payment.
Are we paying for the library, the interior library work? with
Yes.
a different fund then?
Thank
Not
you.
this?
Thank you for
Is
that
right?
question.
That's what
Correct.
I'm missing.
So the library fund will actually fund for the $2 million interior project. So it won't be Measure K any longer, of course. Thank you for that question. Okay. So next we'll take a look at our other city funds. So this slide provides a high-level summary of the city's other funds, and the city maintains over 50 separate funds categorized as enterprise, special purpose, and internal service. Overall, these funds account for approximately $129.8 million in revenues and approximately $86.7 million in expenditures in the proposed 26-27 budget. One of the larger increases that you'll notice is within the special purpose funds category, which relates again to that placeholder estimate related to the proposed bond, which is currently estimated at $56 million as the bond proceeds. So that's why you'll notice that spike in special purpose revenues compared to the current year's budget. As part of the prior CIP study session, we also included an estimated $12.8 million in bond-funded project costs for 26-27, which is also reflected in the special funds budget presented tonight. Again, as financing options continue being evaluated and refined, these estimates may continue changing and will be updated as our options are completed. So the city's proposed budget this evening results in positive fund balances for most of the city's funds. However, as council is aware, there are funds with negative balances, which include the Lighting and Landscape Assessment District and Park Maintenance Assessment District funds. Following last year's Prop 218 results, staff still continues to evaluate options to address those funding gaps by identifying operational savings opportunities wherever possible, such as installing LED lighting and exploring other energy efficient alternatives and other cost reduction strategies. There are also grant funds that are anticipated to temporarily reflect negative fund balances due to timing, and in many cases, expenditures occur first and reimbursement revenues are received later. So those grant funds have temporary negative balances that are anticipated to clear out over time. Next, we'll take a look at our fees. As council will recall, staff conducted a comprehensive review of fees during budget study session number 1 on May 5th. The average CPI for 2025 was 3.2%, which then served as the baseline increase for the city's fees. Staff then reviewed each fee individually to determine whether an adjustment was appropriate. And based on this review, a majority of fees, approximately 68%, are being proposed to adjust by 3.2%. Approximately 28% of our fees have no change due to a few reasons, either a mandated fee amount, a voter-approved fee such as our water and sewer sewer rates, or some fees that are kept at accessible rates as a service to the community. Of note, due to noticing timelines, building and development-related fees, which includes building fees, planning fees, engineering fees, and fire plan check and inspection fees, are not included in tonight's approval recommendation, but staff will return to City Council on the next meeting, July 7th, for separate consideration and approval of those fee adjustments. Now let's take a look at our Capital Improvement Program, or CIP. Again, on May 5th, staff conducted a comprehensive review of the city's 26-27 CIP program during budget study session number 1. And the city's CIP is a multi-year planning tool that identifies the city's short and medium-term infrastructure needs. Projects are prioritized based on council's goals, public safety concerns, legal requirements, maintenance needs, and the availability of one-time funding for specific projects. The CIP is a dynamic planning document that's reviewed and updated regularly as part of the budget process, and a detailed listing of funded and unfunded projects for the next 5 years is included as Attachment D to Resolution number 2026-37 for your review. The city's 26-27 CIP appropriation totals to approximately 18.5 million, with a focus on major city facilities and parks improvement projects, including the community center, recreation park, Fire Station 102, Kiwanis Park playground improvements, and the library enhancement project. We'll continue to work hard on securing funding for unfunded projects. And additionally, staff will work on updating the 5-year CIP book following tonight's budget approval. As a note, staff will return to City Council for formal approval of each project prior to implementation and award of contract, of course. So overall, the proposed 26-27 budget incorporates conservative revenue and expenditure projections while also preparing for several major capital improvement projects. Controlling costs and continuing to address the general fund deficit will remain a major focus for all departments moving forward. And while there continues to be some uncertainty in the economy, the city remains in a strong position because of City Council's longstanding commitment to conservative budgeting practices and sound financial management. As we move into 26-27, staff will continue to closely monitor the budget and will continue to return to council with quarterly updates throughout the year or more frequently if needed. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Ray? Great report as usual.
Thank you.
Any questions? Well, if we don't have any questions, then do we have a motion?
And Mayor, before you take a motion, you should just check to see if there are any members of the public who wish to speak on this item.
Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Not seeing anyone wanting to address the council on this item, then we will come back. And do we have and I just want to point out too, that this is not obviously, and she said, this is not the first time we've seen this. And so not that we're trying to discount it or rush through it or anything.
No, yeah, I would just
Yes.
agree with you that the staff has done a great job. I know everyone here on the council has been looking over these numbers and this material, and I'm glad that we are in a good place, or as good a place as we can be, right? So thank you for that.
And not only that, we regularly look them over and have the reviews and the opportunity to make adjustments where needed. So having said that,
I'd like
do
to
we have a
adopt
motion?
make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-37 and 2026-38 and approve the fiscal year 2026-27.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, then can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmembers Belton,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Shevlin.
Yes. Congratulations, Ray, your
Congratulations.
first
Good
budget.
job.
Great job, great job. Okay, then we are moving on to AR2, purchase of 2 new Pierce Enforcer triple combination engines from South Coast Fire Equipment in an amount not to exceed $2,930,000 and authorize a contingency amount not to exceed $293,000. Yes, that's $293,000. And our fire chief, Jeremy Sanchez,
Yes.
will present
Hi.
this.
How are you? We will try to make this quick. I know it's been a long
Mhm.
evening, but like I said earlier, I tend to be long-winded, so I do apologize.
Mhm.
I'd have a
We're
jacket,
watching you.
but Heath is wearing my jacket, so I'm sorry. He's out there listening. So yes, good evening, Mayor Shevlin and Council. Tonight, we are here to obtain your approval for the purchase of these two new fire engines in the amount of $2.93 million with a contingency of $293,000. Before we get started, I want to just go over our fleet and kind of what makes up our fire department and our ability to respond to emergencies. So on the screen there, we have our five fire engines that make up our complement of our suppression vehicles. One of those vehicles is a state OES engine that we use for brush fires and other state mutual aid needs. We do have two frontline fire engines and then two reserve fire engines. We have three paramedic squads, two frontline squads, one reserve, two fire trucks, again, one of those is a reserve, two command vehicles, one water tender, and then administrative vehicles and support vehicles. Our replacement schedule that we have built is based on the National Fire Protection Agency standard for aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicles, automated fire apparatus, wildland fire apparatus, and automotive ambulances. The replacement schedule outlines a 0 to 15-year frontline emergency response vehicle, and then 15 to 25-year reserve status, and then at 25 years, we retire the vehicle from service. It's a plan that we've built and kind of got to a point, and now we follow the national standard. Years ago, we had 7-year frontline, 7-year reserve. We moved it to 10-year, and now with the national standard, we aim to follow that national standard. Again, the national standard is intended to ensure that apparatus remain compliant with evolving requirements. These include environmental benefits, with reduced emissions with these new vehicles that they will have. It meets the 2007 EPA requirements and the CARB standards, the improved fuel efficiency and regulatory compliance, mechanical reliability and downtime risk, and then firefighter safety as well. The mechanical reliability and downtime risk is what I'll highlight here. When we look at our vehicles and the need to have emergency vehicles responding day in, day out, we have to have a reliable vehicle that we can turn to at any time. If you look at the Eaton fires and the Palisades fires and any disaster we really have, we have to have the ability to jump in a vehicle regardless of the time of day. So we know there was a hot topic recently related to in-service vehicles and the ability to have reserve vehicles in another agency. And here in our department, obviously, we work on that daily to make sure our vehicles are available. Without having the ability to rely on those vehicles mechanically, which time of service, in service actually impacts that greatly, we're stuck with no vehicle to respond in. So a lot of this replacement schedule aims to make sure we have the most reliable vehicle on the streets for our community. So our planned replacement schedule we have here, our 2002 Emergency 1 fire engine would be 28 years at the age of replacement, so the age that we will retire that from service. Our 2008 will be 22 years. And then the two frontline rigs we do have now will move to reserve status. So what you're seeing here is a 15-year time frame of frontline service, and then the 10-year that we would move those vehicles into reserve status before we retire them completely. If we move to our procurement process, our department kind of works internally to establish an apparatus committee. We build a specification that best fits the needs of our community and our department. That goes line by line from everything from seats to hose complements to the type of motor we're going to run to the type of pump we're going to have. It really is a time-consuming process that makes sure that we have the right vehicle for our community. We obtain bids from vendors, review the bids, and then ultimately work on a selection process. This process had 3 reputable manufacturers submit bids. If you see there, we have one bid was submitted by Fire Apparatus Solution, which is basically operating as for KME, which is the vendor for KME. South Coast Fire Equipment, which was the vendor for Pierce. And then the last one was for Seagrave. If you see, it's a variance of prices. ultimately starting at 1.389 million and working your way up to 1.534 million. For us, when we look at the best vehicle that meets our needs, we really take a comprehensive look to make sure it actually is meeting what we need and what's best for our community. And that varies from anything from the chassis advantage that the Pierce vehicle does offer is what we're looking to aim to purchase. Pierce does offer a TAC4 independent suspension, which fits our needs of our community. When we look at our community and our crowns and our streets, our foothill community, some of these vehicles are going to be on dirt roads. They're going to be up on our foothills responding, and the TAC4 independent suspension that the Pierce vehicle offers best fits the needs and allows us to, it handles better, it performs better during emergencies, and allows us to make sure we can control that vehicle in the right manner. The Pierce also offers a warranty and coverage, which is the most comprehensive out of the three bids submitted, and make sure that we have the life of the vehicle is going to be under warranty. Maybe not for every item, but more specifically for the chassis, that the Pierce does offer a 50-year warranty. We're not going to keep this vehicle for 50 years. However, we will keep it for 25 years. Some of the competitors out there will offer a 20-year. And if you look at having a vehicle into the 20-year time frame, you want to make sure you have the best warranty that we can offer for our community and for our firefighters. Any questions?
I did have a question about, is there a market for retired vehicles?
There is some vehicles, again, depending on the situation, vehicles we purchase from anything from the entertainment industry. I've seen fire engines out there for birthday parties and different things. But when it comes to purchasing vehicles for emergency response, the standard is such to make sure that we, retire them and then they can get used from a variety of things.
Oh, and I can understand that. I just wondered if you actually can sell them and recoup any.
Yeah.
any
The mayor wants to
So-
buy a fire truck.
Yeah.
So the goal for us, breaking down some of the fiscal impact here, we will end up selling our existing vehicles and recover a certain amount. It ranges anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 depending on the vehicle and depending on the condition of the vehicle. Again, these are 25-year-old vehicles, so depending on who's going to purchase them, depending across the nation, sometimes they will be purchased and maybe shipped elsewhere throughout the world, depending on what these vendors will do. But about 30 to 50,000 is what we can anticipate receiving. We'd like to receive more, but we'll
Yeah,
see what it offers.
I totally get
And
it.
hopefully they remain in good condition. 4 years from now is when we'll take delivery of the vehicles if ordered today. So a lot can change from now and then. So going back to the fiscal impact here, again, we talked about the purchase price of $2.929 million. The payment will be due at delivery, so fiscal year 29-30. And then we do have the contingency amount that will outline the persistent inflationary environmental clause why that contingency amount is so important on the next slide. And then they did provide us a discount of $30,000 because our goal is to purchase two pumpers at the same time. The funds for this will come out of our fire vehicle replacement budget, which is $900,000 that is set aside annually to make sure we have the funds necessary to pay for these vehicles when the time comes. But between now and then, there will be no dollars exchanged. Once the vehicle is completed and we take delivery, we'll have to pay at that point. So just touching on the contingency amount a little bit, when we talk about this persistent inflationary environmental clause, because the vehicles take a long time to build, we're talking about a 47-month build time. So between now and then, now and 14 months before the vehicle is manufactured and delivered, there's a clause in there that allows the manufacturer to adjust the fee up to 5%, where they will cover that 5%, but anything over the 5%, the city will be responsible for. It's only happened, I believe the vendor said 3 times since World War II, and it's really an item that kind of protects the vendor, but it also makes sure that there's a fair discussion between us and the vendor because they're using a federal standard that makes sure that they're looking at all cost of goods to make sure that it's not just what they believe. They're using something that gets produced on a regular basis, so they'll take that number and see what actually the percentage difference is. If it goes to 6%, then the city will be responsible for that 1%, but we would have the option to renegotiate or negotiate or pull out of the deal completely. It really is a good kind of balance between the vendor has to protect themselves, and then the city, we want to make sure that we have a say also. And then before you hear the options are approve the purchase of two new Pearson Forcer triple combination engines from South Coast Fire Equipment in an amount not to exceed the 2.93 million, and authorize a contingency not to exceed 293,000, or reject the purchase and provide staff with further direction. Obviously, we will recommend option one to make sure that we have the ability to provide the service to our community day in, day out.
Any questions for the chief? I did have a question. Does the actual or vehicles that we're getting, they're fully then equipped with everything that we want, so we wouldn't then, at the end of when they built the trucks, we're not adding a bunch of stuff onto them?
No, what we have is the vehicles that we will sell, the equipment from there kind of switches over. Whether that be our fire hose, our chainsaws, our nozzles, and all that good stuff. Some of the things that are built into the spec is a communication budget to make sure that we can put radios in the vehicle. Those are some of the more high-ticket items to make sure that is included in there. We have a budget in there for that as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment that it's so important to have vehicles that are top of the line so that you continue to do the good work that you guys have been doing. And a second can make a difference. Arriving somewhere 10 seconds later can make a difference in someone's life. So I think the importance of making sure that our vehicles are working properly and we have the best of the best in order to continue to save lives and do the work that you all are doing excellently well. I just wanted to make that comment.
Wow. Do we have a motion then?
Yeah, I'll move as well, but.
Okay, Larry made the motion.
I'll second.
And
Larry just said so moved. Is that the motion?
Edward has seconded it, has made the second. Can we have was there any public comment? Anybody wanting to make any public comment? Not seeing any. Okay, can we have a roll call vote?
Council members Belden?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly?
Yes.
Spicer? and Mayor
Absolutely.
Shevlin. Sorry, Mayor Shevlin.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We don't have any further public comment, but I did want to mention, there was something that was put on the dais here for everyone. There was a written public comment that was about the peacocks, about,
They're multiplying.
yes. So at any rate, I did want to point that out, that we did receive from Vera Tilks, a public comment regarding peacocks. And then our next scheduled meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 7th, 7:30 PM here in these chambers. And in adjournment, I'm trying to find my
Bring
sheet
back
here.
that All-American City.
Yep. We certainly hope that, but unfortunately, we have got several that we're closing our meeting in memory of Joy Janine Gross, grandmother of Administrative Services Accounting Assistant April Olson, and then Anthony Santalena, uncle of Deputy City Clerk Sarah Godinez, and Ed Cunningham, and he's was the trail volunteer with our Canyon Park. Outstanding volunteer, and a huge loss, but he had a very long and productive life, dying at age 96. But our hearts and prayers go out to each and every one of the families, and we thank them for their service. So with that, we are adjourned at 10:25, and thank you, everyone.
We made it. With 2 minutes to spare.
No more meetings for the fiscal year.
Yeah.
Amen.
Pastor Tucker, you get a, he's not listening. You get.